Former Speaker of the House, Newt Gingrich, joining us here on the WGIR Morning Show. Mr. Speaker, welcome.
Good morning. How are you?
Good morning. Very well, sir. And let me ask you this. Last week, you came alive during this debate on Thursday. Not to say you hadn't been alive before, but, sir, you were you were revved up. Did you have your Wheaties that morning?
It was an opportunity.
Oh, it sounds like we're losing him a little bit here. Mr. Gingirch. It sounds like he dropped off the line. Well, we'll try and get him back on the line, and I want to ask him about that. I want to ask him about the campaign. I guess he might be calling in back here. Let's see if we can get him back on the line. But really, it's about the campaign. It's about this issue of role of government, and it's about how he did during the debate. Mr. Gingrich, are you there?
Yeah, I apologize.
Oh, no problem.
But what I was trying to say is, when I talk with people, whether it's in Iowa or New Hampshire or South Carolina or Georgia, normal Americans who aren't part of Washington understand the urgency of our problems. They understand the threat of unemployment. They understand the dangers of relying on foreign dictators for oil. They understand that a $2 trillion deficit is absurd and absolutely unsustainable. Yet in Washington, you get no sense of urgency, including in the Washington news media. They all have jobs. Housing prices in Washington is the only city in the country where prices have held up. Everything seems kind of normal. And so you end up with deals like the debt ceiling, which was just sort of politics as normal.
Yeah.
And I thought Thursday night was an opportunity to begin to sort of jar the system and outline something which I'll continue today at the Heritage Foundation at 9 o'clock this morning. Outline, first of all, how absurd the super committee of 12 people is, and outline what we could do based on my own experience working with Ronald Reagan after Jimmy Carter and working with the Contract with America, and knowing that you can get real change, but that requires that you have the courage to be for real change. And so I was excited Thursday night because here was a chance to talk with the entire country. It's one of the major virtues of having the opportunity to run for president and to serve as president is that you do get what Theodore Roosevelt called a bully pulpit. And if you have the right knowledge and the right information and the right ideas, you and the American people can have a conversation that changes history. And I thought Thursday night was a good example of that.
Yeah, absolutely. And, one of the things that I know you've been speaking out about outside of the debate as well, and something that, a lot of us are interested in the effects of, and maybe you could help explain it a little bit, is the Dodd-Frank legislation. Now, this is something that kind of happened, and now it seems to be undercovered what the end effects of it are. Can you go into that and talk about the financial reforms that have been put into place under Barack Obama?
I can also report there was in a series of meetings in New Hampshire with small business leaders and with local community bankers that I first began to realize what a disaster the Dodd-Frank bill is. First of all, I just tell most conservatives Chris Dodd and Barney Frank wrote it. They kind of get the idea. But this is a 2,300-page bill that creates bureaucratic socialism in banking. It does for financial services what Obamacare does for health. It creates a Washington-centered, bureaucratic, top-down, we tell you, they allow you to pretend you own your company, but they run it for you. They make all your decisions. They micromanage you. And it is literally the end of free markets as we have known it, if it's allowed to go into effect. And not a single House Republican voted for it last year. I think it would be an easy thing for the House Republicans to repeal it, send it to the Senate, and say, we're trying to help the economy. We want to create jobs. Now, what are you going to do? And force Harry Reid and the Senate Democrats. You want to find out who the real party of no is. The House Republicans have to be the party of yes, and they have to do it by action, not by press conferences. And they have to do it so people see the legislative process and see something real being done.
What's next for you here in New Hampshire? I mean, what are you looking at this point?
Well,
the primary's obviously a few months off.
We're working on a schedule. Our hope is that, and this has not been scheduled yet, but our hope is we'll be up Thursday a week and spend the day. One of the most interesting things that's developing, and this is part of why I'm running and why I think I'm so different from all the other candidates. I really think we have to have a new generation of solutions that get us out of the many boxes we're in. We're in national strategy boxes, we're in deficit spending boxes, we're in bureaucracy boxes, we're in redistribution boxes. I mean, none of these things are working. So you have to have new solutions. One of the most interesting new solutions is a concept called Lean Six Sigma. Now, political reporters' eyes glaze over at this point, but let me say to our audience, if you want to know why Boeing is the leading American exporting manufacturer, look at Lean Six Sigma. If you want to know why Motorola is still competitive in the world market, look at Lean Six Sigma. This is a specific management tool that has been used all over the country. It's used by some manufacturing companies right there in New Hampshire. And in fact, I signed the Strong America Now pledge in New Hampshire with a group of workers who use this every day. The report of the people who are experts on this is that we could save $500 billion a year getting faster, leaner, more effective government, taking out the bureaucracy and the waste. $500 billion a year. That means over 10 years you'd save $5 trillion. That's more than 3 times the goal of this absurd super committee of 12 people. Now, the problem is, how do you get Washington to slow down enough to learn? Because they're so busy arguing and bickering that they just find learning a very painful process. But we have a conference call tomorrow at newt.org that Adam Waldeck is leading. We had, as of last night, 500 RSVPs from around the country. And one of the things we're looking at is the possibility of having a public meeting of Lean Six Sigma specialists and businesses who use it in New Hampshire probably next Thursday in order to really begin to show people this stuff's all real. I mean, we have it within our power.
Yeah, absolutely.
To dramatically reshape government.
Well, one of the big questions I think a lot of New Hampshireites are going to have, even though it might be in the back of their heads, maybe not the first thing they ask you, but electability. Can you make it through the New Hampshire primary? Can you win it? Can you make it all the way to the White House? You're not polling that well in this state, so just tell me what you think.
Well, look, I will, having done this for a fair amount of time, and having had virtually everybody say we couldn't have a majority in '94, and virtually everybody said that we wouldn't win the U.S. Senate in 1980 when I worked with Ronald Reagan on the first Capitol Steps event, and we carried 6 U.S. Senate seats by a total margin of 75,000 votes, and suddenly won the Senate as well as 33 House seats. And Reagan, by the way, carried more states against Jimmy Carter than Franklin Delano Roosevelt carried against Herbert Hoover in 1932. So I think that here are the 2 questions I want to ask you. And I'll let you, as an expert in New Hampshire, you tell me. The first is, if somebody comes along at a time of real unemployment, real pain, and real fear, and they have substantially better ideas, even if they have less money, do you think the voter in the end, is going to decide they want somebody with real solutions or somebody who's a good fundraiser?
Well, they're going to want the solutions. I know it's. I know.
Let me give you the second question. Having watched the New Hampshire primary for years, in the age of the internet, of YouTube and Twitter and Google Plus and all the different tools we now have, Facebook, how long do you think it takes for a candidate and an idea to reach the American people when they're paying attention? My guess is no more than 2 weeks.
Right. Well,
and so the question is, can we build an organization, and can we build, more importantly, can we build a set of solutions which allow people to build an organization because they decide they want these solutions? And if you watch me over the next 2 or 3 months, I'm not talking about what I'll do in 2013.
Right,
I'm talking about what Washington should do this week, because we're in pain and we're at risk this week. And we need leadership that focuses on action. And I'm not talking about sending a message to Washington. I'm talking about changing Washington. I think we need to have a momentum that actually changes this city.
Okay.
And it ought to start now, not in January of 2013.
Now, we've got about 30 seconds left, but coming up on the show, we've got somebody from Campaigns and Elections magazine. They look at political consulting. You had some pretty harsh words during the debate for political consultants. Are you not a fan?
Well, Ronald Reagan had all 13 of his top people resign the morning of the New Hampshire primary, and when he brought in Bill Casey, who was a lawyer, not a consultant, to run the campaign, he laid off another 100 people.
Right.
John McCain went through a similar experience in 2007. I think political consultants have some uses in some ways to do some things, but I think they've led to an overly negative 30-second attack ad, negative phone call model of politics, which I find, frankly, destructive of the American system. We need an idealism and a willingness to talk with each other and a willingness to have conversations longer than a 30-second attack ad. And we need to not have candidates who spend their time just chewing on each other. Tell us what you're going to do to make America a better place, and tell us what you're going to do to solve problems for our children and grandchildren. I think that ought to be the theme of this campaign.
All right, former House Speaker Newt Gingrich, we appreciate the time as always. Hope to have you back.
Great. Talk to you soon.